pre-show here. I'm going to let people settle in. Hopefully everybody is okay. This week has been complicated. I've been a dingus, as well as I made some errors, as well as dealing with some kid stress and everything like that. So hopefully you guys are having a good Friday night. And also welcome to a brand new era of the podcast. And for some reason, I see what happened there. Is that better? Welcome. Happy Friday. Hello, RPX. How are you doing? So, like I was saying before, I hope everybody's had an awesome week. For me, it's been, as you can tell, very weird. I've had some blunders. Basically, I think I've learned the hard way that I have to find a specific day in the week to upload stuff, because if I upload stuff consistently throughout the week, it kind of wrecks my internet. So, but not only that, we were dealing with some kid stress. It looks like one of my kids might have a cold again. And that's always fun. But also, we're going to be trying out something new tonight. I'm kind of doing a pre-show now because I'm not going to worry about this going on there, but we're going to do a solo podcast. So we're going to see how that goes. Better by a long shot. All right. Well, I'm happy that yours went good. We're gonna do a solo podcast, and actually by request, I'm gonna be reading the stories so you guys can follow along and all that. I can't really do that when I have a panel. It gets a little bit more difficult to do, but a lot of you guys have actually been asking that I do that. So we're gonna do read-alongs, and that way you guys can see opinions getting formulated. And I've already got a number of stories that I want to tackle that maybe aren't necessarily friendly with the panel. So we'll take those on as well. But hopefully all is well with the rest of you. And also for all those who are enjoying Pokemon Legends Arceus, tell me your stories, because Andrea unfortunately has not been playing. She just decided, okay, this has spurred me on to go finish the games that I'm working on so that I can play Arceus. So at that point, that's what she decided to do. For a moment, I thought you have decided you were going to become a Magic Mike male stripper. Phew, I hope not. I definitely do not have the bod for that. I mean, I could have. No. I don't have the genetics to be able to do a male stripper, and I don't know if I have much more respect for myself than to subject you guys to that, much less myself. Because it would basically be Chris Farley doing the Chippendales dance, all right? Let's just go ahead and be honest. But hey, I'm at least happy because tonight on the podcast, I get to talk trash about somebody who's fatter than me. So that's gonna be fun. Yeah, we're gonna try out something new tonight. We'll worry about the panels at the end of the month, and I'm gonna do some solo podcasts and tackle some issues that maybe I wanna tackle, but don't necessarily fit in with a panel. So that's gonna be fun. And I'm sorry if the music's not coming in all that great for you guys. I have to turn it down because it just blares in my headset. So I have no problem with the music being there while we podcast, but at the same time, I have to do something with it. Let's see. I can turn it up for you guys. That'll help too. And also, I'm instead of having a conversation with the panel, I'm going to have a conversation with you guys. You guys let me know what you think of the stories. Sweet. Yes. we're gonna tackle all of this. But I'm gonna give people time, since I did say the starting time was 9 o'clock, my time, so that would be 11 o'clock Eastern. Oh. Why is it using... Okay. Well, thankfully I can use this, I think. But let me go ahead and grab this again. Jiminy Christmas! YouTube, you suck. I don't know why you suck so hard, but you do. There we go. Let's grab this. Pop that chat out again. Oh, I hate it when this bullshit happens. Okay. I don't know if I can change the settings live, but I am definitely going to check something really quick. Output. No, everything looks like it should be okay. Well, that's bullshit. So, hopefully this is working for you guys now. Thankfully this happened in the pre-show, so I don't have to worry about it too much. Just worries me a little bit because it's relying on my CPU. It should be relying on my GPU. And I don't know why it's doing that, but okay. There we go. And I'll even turn off some applications, and maybe that'll help. So hopefully... Oh, there we go. Hey, J-Rock, how you doing? Hopefully RPX was able to get back in here, too. So, yeah, long story short, with what I was basically trying to say, the reason that we didn't have a Monday, Tuesday, or even a Wednesday stream is entirely my fault. Basically, what I kind of learned is I probably need a dedicated stream upload day. I need one because it wrecks everything for the rest of the week. So I've gotta probably like Thursday, because Thursday's my day off, and I'm too busy going around everywhere. So I'll probably just like upload things over time, but I won't worry about them going live until then. I don't know. It's a thought. I definitely need to figure that out, because it wrecked my upload for streaming. And I've done so much crap. I'm gonna move this cord a little bit so I can see the clock. YouTube is already worrying me. Because it keeps on having disconnections to the chat. Good lord. Yeah, I'm working okay, just... Okay. It's irritating as hell. I'm trying to make sure that it doesn't run off of anything other than my GPU. And it's making the decisions to not do that, which is irritating as hell. Okay. Well, hopefully things reconnect in a little bit. I wish I could say I had a pre-show story, but I don't. I actually just barely got things for the podcast itself. Well, I'm not having issues bringing up anything else, but I'm going to turn some stuff off just to be safe. Okay. So we got this. And in case you guys couldn't tell from the title, well, I have a beef with Whoopi Goldberg right now. So we're gonna resolve that tonight. But since so many of you guys have asked for it, we will be tackling the story here live. So I'll be reading the story and getting you guys up to speed. Which is cool, because I actually get to learn some things along with you guys. Maybe I don't know every single factoid of the story so far. And we can all formulate opinions together. Gia from Captain Planet? Or Gaia? Gaia from Captain... Wait, there was a girl named Gia. There was a girl named Gia. Was she the blonde one, or was she the Asian one? I can't remember. Because the blonde one was Russian. It had to have been the Asian one. It had to have been. But that's not the black one, RPX. Seriously, that was Kwame. Was it Kwame? It's been so long. Yes, I did watch Captain Planet, and yes, it was trash. I can confirm that. Now, as a kid, I didn't look at it that way, but I was a kid, and I didn't know better. But yeah. Yeah, it was Kwame. Kwame was his name, because the Earth Kid was African, the Fire Kid was American, Russian girl was Wind. Yes, and then Asian girl was Water. Whoopi Goldberg. Was she really? I didn't know that. Well, then we're gonna have some fun with. We're gonna have even more fun with Guinan, and I get to actually have some fun because, well, I also get to make fun of somebody who's fatter than me. That's about as far as I know about her. You never watched Star Trek: The Next Generation? Yeah, that's the other thing she's known for, is she was Guinan, the bartender at 10 Forward for it. As well as various movies. I think Ghost is one of hers. The Color Purple, Sister Act 2. And now she's a fat ass. And I have no problem calling it that because, well, she already said some nasty things anyway. All right. So with that, we are at 9 o'clock, so I'm just going to go ahead and start things up for this experiment. Greetings once again, my friends, and welcome back to Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions, the podcast where we take on the week's events in geek for Friday, February 4th, 2022. I am your host, Adam Mickelson, aka Drak, and on this experimental, brand new podcast, or at least brand new format for the podcast, I am flying solo tonight. We are going to be going over some stories that maybe with a full panel I can't necessarily go over, but I will also be reading them live with you, and we will be formulating opinions, and we will be giving whatever analysis that we can, and we're going to have some fun along the way. Who knows? Maybe we'll even have enough time for a post show. I don't know. But hopefully all is well for all of you guys. And usually this would be the point in the podcast where I ask everybody how they're doing, but everybody is gone, except for I am being joined by my live chat. So live chat, hello, how are you, my friends? We're going to have some fun making fun of some people as well as chastising some people because it's the internet and we all have to do that, right? We all have to do that occasionally. So let's get into it right off the bat, shall we? Because, well, the news made itself, and now I get to make fun of it. So that's just the way that it goes. And we'll be starting off with our top story this week. At least I've seen the most people talking about it. And that is Star Trek Picard actress Whoopi Goldberg suspended from The View by ABC News President Kim Godwin over comments about the Holocaust. Bum, bum, bum. So let's actually see if what she said was all that bad. I have a feeling it is, but let's see what actually happened here. ABC News President Kim Godwin announced that Whoopi Goldberg was suspended for 2 weeks following her comments about Jews and the Holocaust. That's a pretty loaded one. And why is Adam Sessler still important? We'll get there. He thinks he's important, but we'll get there. In a post to the ABC News PR Twitter account, Godwin wrote, "Effective immediately, I'm suspending Whoopi Goldberg for 2 weeks for her wrong and hurtful comments. While Whoopi has apologized, and I've seen that shit apology, I've asked her to take time to reflect and learn about the impact of her comments." Yeah, this is such a PR statement. She concluded by saying, "The entire ABC News organization stands in solidarity with our Jewish colleagues, friends, family, and communities, unless we're at a Hollywood party, and then we'll make fun of them however many times we want." So during a segment on The View discussing the removal of graphic novel Mouse from a Tennessee school district's curriculum, Goldberg stated, "If you're going to do this, then let's be truthful about it, because the Holocaust isn't about race. No, it's not about race. Thank you for stating the obvious." Joy Behar countered, saying they consider Jews a different race. Goldberg responded, "It's not about race. It's not about race." Okay. Well, the Holocaust wasn't about race. It was because they decided to basically denigrate an entire faith of people. So, but, I mean, there was at least some degree of race involved with Hitler. He did believe in the Aryan nations kind of stuff, so blonde hair, blue eyes, all that. But no, it was because he needed a target for the German people to hate on, and so he picked the Jews. And then he made everybody hate the Jews. When asked what she thinks the Holocaust is about, Goldberg answered, "It's about man's inhumanity to man. That's what it is about." That's broad. That's a damn, she got fat. No, you're not kidding. And we'll probably even show a picture of her, because it's ridiculous. So that's a portion of it. It was more along the lines of Germany was in a state of near poverty, and so in order to win the position of Führer, Hitler blamed the Jews for it. So yeah, I guess man's inhumanity to man, but it was just straight up genocidal hatred. So, I mean, that's a light way to put it. There are two white groups of people. Oh, that's racist, Whoopi. She then asserted, "But you are missing the point. You're missing the point. The minute you turn it into a race, it goes down this alley." Holy shit! Whoopi Goldberg actually said something kind of smart. She's not wrong. Yeah, when you make it about race, it becomes about race. Funniest thing about that. So let's talk about it for what it is. It's how people treat each other. It's a problem. It doesn't matter if you're black or white, because black, white, Jews, Italian, everybody eats each other. Whoa! Oh, I didn't hear that part. Everybody eats each other, huh? Well, RPX, I'm sorry, but I'm going to need to eat you because you're just that damn tasty. There's no beating around the bush here. You're just that damn tasty. So with that, let's see. If you're uncomfortable, if you hear about Mouse, should you be worried? Should your child say, "Oh my God, I wonder if that's me"? No, that's not what they're going to say. They're going to say, "I don't want to be like that." Most kids don't want to be cruel. Yeah, okay, but I don't think I know about Mouse. I'll have to double check, but okay, I don't necessarily know about Mouse, but you want to know another book I know is banned in a lot of places? Fahrenheit. Fahrenheit is banned in a lot of places. So at that point, and that was basically Big Brother government in a lot of cases. Yeah, that's a George Orwell book, I believe. So at that point, that's banned everywhere. But you want this around because it. Her word, yeah, exactly. Her wording kind of sucks at this. After Ana Navarro asserted, it is necessary for kids to learn about the Holocaust, to learn about man's inhumanity to man, how it exposes itself. Well, I would agree with that, that we do need to learn about man's inhumanity to man, but I don't want them to learn it through Mouse. I want them to learn it through actually saying what happened in the Holocaust. So, yeah. Goldberg would issue an apology for her comments on Twitter. On today's show, I said the Holocaust is not about race, but about man's inhumanity to man. I should have said it is about both. And immediately she makes it worse. It's not about race. Or at least it's a tiny part. It was more about riling up the Jewish people, getting them to hate their neighbor, and then in turn want to send their neighbors to death camps. That's what it was about. And then eventually, they had to get rid of the filthy Jews so that then the Aryan race could prevail. So yeah, it's a little bit about race, but not entirely. It was more along the lines of he needed somebody to blame, so he picked that, and he decided, just like Hollywood does, is that all Jews are evil because they're money grubbers, and they're all rich. Anyone seen Schindler's List? Yes, but it hasn't. It's been forever. I actually need to watch that again. That's one of the better Liam. I was about to say. I have to think about it now because I was about to go like Liam O'Brien. No, Liam Neeson. It's one of the better Liam Neeson movies. So, as Jonathan Greenblatt from the Anti-Defamation League shared, it's always such a great thing to hear from them. The Holocaust was about the Nazi systemic annihilation of the Jewish people, who they deemed to be an inferior race. Inferior race. See, I was there with you until inferior race. Because it wasn't necessarily that. It was that they were an evil race because they were evil money hoarders. That's how you were painting it. Kind of like how Hollywood does now. Okay. The Jewish people around the world have always had my support, and that will never waver. I'm sorry for the hurt caused. Okay. And then you got butthurt as soon as you got suspended and threatened to quit. So there's the official apology if you guys want to see it on her Twitter. Let's see. So following this apology, Goldberg appeared on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert to discuss her comments. See, you can already tell this is one of those rare times, boys and girls, where I get to make fun of somebody who's fatter than me. Okay? I'm a fat ass. I get that. But at least I'm actually going about my day to try and change it. What the fuck is her excuse? Holy crap. So during the appearance, Gilbert stated that her comments upset a lot of people, which was never, ever, ever my intention. Like it is on every other episode of The View where you have no problem offending tons and tons of people because they disagree with you on a particular train of thought. But this time you're on their side. Sure. I'll give them that. She plumped up real good. Let's see. So she elaborated. I love it. I love the fact that they feel they need to elaborate because it totally makes things better. Because I feel, being black, we have a problem with the term I feel, but I will get to this video eventually. People need to stop saying I feel and start saying I think a lot more. Being black, when we talk about race, it's a very different thing to me. So I said I felt that the Holocaust wasn't about race, and people got very, very angry and are still angry. I'm getting, all the mail from folks and the very real anger because people feel very differently. They probably also hate your ass because you continue to call them stupid. But okay. but I thought it was a salient discussion because as a black person, I think of race as being something that I can see. No, something that only you see. So I see you and I know what race you are, and the discussion was about how I felt about that. I felt that it was really more about man's inhumanity to man and how people can be people. And we're seeing it manifest itself these days. Yes, by leftists going about and causing violence left and right. I feel like chicken tonight. No. Oh, no. You went for the jingle. I feel like chicken tonight. Like chicken tonight. All right, so Goldberg went on, but people were very angry, and they said, no, we are a race, and I understand. I felt differently. I respect everyone. Oh, Blizzard's first rule. People are stupid. I don't want to fake apologize. You are fake apologizing! I'm very upset that people misunderstood what I was saying, and so because of it, they're saying I'm anti-Semitic, and that I'm denying the Holocaust and all those other things, which would never occur to me to do. I thought we were having a discussion about race, which... Okay, so she immediately went to Jews, race. I'm having a cupcake in the morning. Race! I'm enjoying my afternoon tea. Racism! Really? That's where you went. Colbert would then chime in claiming whiteness is a construct created by colonial powers. Fuck you, Colbert!
Whiteness is a construct created by colonial powers during the beginning of colonial imperialist era in order to exploit other people, that they could apply it to all different kinds of people. That idea of race in the American experience tends to be based on skin.
Bullshit! You want to see real racism? I mean real racism. Go anywhere other than the United States. Because people are still denigrated for various reasons, whether it be race, whether it be faith, whether it be any of those other things. Oh, yeah, and also some of them are subject to slavery. You know, like those Uyghur camps in China. So, yeah. Yes, and so that is what race means to me. When you talk about being a racist, I was saying you can't call this race... Fuck you, Whoopi. Holy shit. People getting dumber is a good thing. It means normal and smart people rise to the top. Well, yeah, but the problem is that I don't want to be the smartest guy in the room. That's kind of the problem. I'm skipping on here. So Colbert would then ask Goldberg if she realizes that the Nazis saw it as... Oh, this is bullshit apology. Okay, I guess if I've said I've got to read it, then I've got to read it. After Colbert talked about Nazis identifying about how the Nazis identified Jews and made them wear a yellow star, my point is they had to do the work. If the Klan is coming down the street and I'm standing with a Jewish friend and neither one, well, I'm going to run. But if no, you're not. No, you're not. I've seen a picture of you recently, Whoopi. You ain't running. But if my friend decides not to run, they'll get passed by most times because you can't tell who is Jewish. Yeah, but you have no problem with people basically burning their vaccine history into their arm, now do you? You have no problem with that. But the star? Nah. Make them wear a star on their neck? Nah, that's not a problem. Vaccine record, right there. It was either you or Joy that advocated for the microchip, so I'm just basically saying what makes you any different. And people, let's see, she elaborated on the point, oh, that person is Jewish, or this person is Jewish, and so that's what I was trying to explain, and I understand that not everybody sees it that way, and I did a lot of harm. And people, decided I was all these other things. I'm actually not, and I'm incredibly torn up by being told these things about myself. I get it. Folks are angry. I accept that, and I did it to myself. This was my thought process, and I will work hard not to think that way again. No, you won't. I can already tell you, just given how you're blubbering about this, you won't. So Colbert would then ask, she responded, we'll see. That this is what's interesting to me because the Nazis lied. It wasn't. They had issues with ethnicity, not with race. They had more issues with religion than anything else, because most of the Nazis were white people, and most of the people that were attacking were white people. Headache. headache, just headache. So to me, I'm thinking, how can you say it's about race if you're fighting each other? It all really began because I said, how will we explain to children what happened in Nazi Germany? We can do it any number of ways aside from race, because race played such a little part in that. The only way that race played into it was the Aryan theology. Like, Hitler or somebody within his cabinet believed in Aryan theology. So blonde hair, blue eyes, because while they were also rounding up the Jews, they were all, I can't remember if this is exactly how it went, but they were basically sending German soldiers up to the Norse regions to have blonde hair, blue-eyed kids. So, it was racial. So let's see. Okay, I said this wasn't racial. This was about white on white, and everybody said, no. It wasn't racial. Not the racial that you're saying. But there was no White Lives Matter or anything like that. There was much more to that. So once again, don't write me anymore. I know how you feel. I already know I get it, and I'm going to take your word for it and never bring it up again. We're going to get into this right here and now. So what she said ultimately was stupid. Because again, you're looking for race problems where race problems weren't the problem. Okay. So at that point and all of this over a book, when in real, like, somehow we went from the book to Nazi Germany and getting that wrong. But I mean, I'm probably getting some facts wrong too. But the bottom line is that we're looking for race where a race problem doesn't exist. It was ultimately to get neighbor to hate neighbor. It was ultimately to blame somebody for the horrible way things were going in Germany. So then Hitler said, blame the Jews. And they did, and they sent them off to camps, and then started to conquer other nations around them. Basically in Germany, equal you two, blonde hair, blue-eyed star. Yeah, that was it. Okay. But I think they also were doing something in the Norse countries too. But yeah, it was the Aryan theology of that. Blonde hair, blue eyes. That's how racial it got. But no. And I'm sure that some people will say, well, yeah, so some of the now Israelis, I believe, may have had different colors, skin colors at that point. I don't think so, but I might be wrong. I might be wrong about that. But again, this wasn't about race. So, long story short, she got suspended for 2 weeks from The View. She then decided to throw a fit about that, basically saying she was going to quit The View, to which then her co-hosts decide, oh, well, if she quits The View, we'll quit The View. Bye. Nobody cares. Like, honestly, who watches The View other than, I don't want to say dedicated audience, because it's not necessarily dedicated audience, it's just dumbass audience. Like, the View has never been entertaining as far as I am concerned. But here's one of the reasons that I wanted to bring this up too. So I actually saw a lot of the discussion that was going on with Whoopi Goldberg around this time, and I think that the suspension is justified. However, then I came across, not this one, dang it, I had it, and I lost it. What the hell? I broke it. Crap. There we go. So, I came across this one from Batleth Babe. Look, however you feel about Whoopi and her suspension from The View for recent comments regarding racism and the Holocaust, asking her to be removed from Star Trek Picard, because some people were actually asking for this, is too much. I hope Guinan haunts you in your dreams with the bartender therapy you need. Wizard's first rule. People are stupid. So, let me ask this honest question to Batleth Babe. Did you have a problem with Gina Carano getting fired from everything? Like, she was on The Mandalorian, and she had a couple of other broadcasts that she was also going to be a part of in the future. Did you want her fired from those too? Because if you did, then shut the fuck up. You're a fucking hypocrite. Because I can literally see very little in terms of difference, aside from stupidity, between what Gina said and what Whoopi said. So, and also, I'm starting to become of the opinion that I am so sick and tired of freaking canceling and everything like that, that I'm about ready to do what a parent should do at this point. It's time for some tough love. So if she gets fired from The View, which I doubt is going to happen, they'll bring her back on and she'll be lionized and everything like that, and it won't be worth it. But let me just clear this up real quick. Yes, she should be fired from Picard. Because I am literally convinced that everybody who is pro-cancel culture, which does exist, it's not consequence culture or anything like that, that the only way that you're going to see how bad it is if you get canceled yourself. And it starts happening to your side of the aisle. So at that point, yes, fire Whoopi from everything. Okay? She needs to be ostracized. And maybe, if enough of this crap happens, we won't have to deal with this bullshit anymore. Probably not. But, yeah, I'm of the opinion that she should be literally fired from everything that she's doing. But it doesn't really even matter, because even though she's going to be brought back on The View, Picard just announced that it's only going to go one more season. So, fuck you. It doesn't really even matter. Stay-at-home housewives and retired women who are home in the middle of the day to watch it. Bartender therapy is the best because at least you can drink your problem away if the talking doesn't work. Except the writers in Star Trek can actually make arguments better than Whoopi Goldberg can, which is really sad. That's just the way that it goes, I guess. But no, I think in all honesty, if she's going to get canceled for because if this was Gina Carano, okay, Whoopi should get fired from everything, because if this was Gina Carano, you'd want that. Absolutely. No questions asked. Some of you get butthurt when Alex Jones shows up on a podcast. And you shouldn't. Because it doesn't matter. Because he has an opinion. One that you disagree with. But it's not like he's gonna change your opinion overnight. Let him do his drivel. Let him do his rants. That's totally fine. It's entertaining. That's why Alex Jones is a fucking meme at this point. So at that point, if you have every problem with Alex Jones, who, I'm just going to go ahead and be honest, most of the time does not make sense. Most of the time does not make sense. If you have a problem with him being on there, but you don't have a problem with everybody else preaching the way that he does, then fuck you. Everybody gets canceled. Because that's the only way that this is going to get solved. It's time for some tough love. It's time for you to spend a night in jail. All right? As fat as she is, I don't think she is doing a lot. No, she is not. Do I actually have... Let's get a legit picture up of her, because it will blow your mind, literally. Let's see, I want tweets and replies, I think, and I got it, too, because I wanted to make sure I had it for a podcast to talk about this. Oh, I've got to have it somewhere. They made a country song out of Alex Jones. Yeah, no, well, I mean, people continue to make shit about Alex Jones, and it doesn't hurt anybody. Here we go. Here it is. So here is Whoopi Goldberg currently. Don't preach to me. Look, I'm a big guy, okay? I'm not going to deny that. You're bigger than me. You're bigger than me. You don't get to preach. In fact, can I get my tax dollars back that are supposed to go to your health care? Because I can definitely... Am I live again? Mother effer. YouTube, stop it. I might just move this straight up to Twitch, guys. I'm not gonna lie, it's actually irritating the hell out of me. And YouTube is dragging it down, so I might as well like finish this on Twitch if this happens again. But we're back. Holy crap. And you're back. Yes. And welcome, J-Rock, again. The Michelin Man with a black head. So let's go ahead and get into the next story, if I'm being allowed to do it. F it, go into Twitch. Yes. Just go to Twitch right now. Just in case crap happens, and then I can figure that out later. But let's go ahead and get into the next story, which is connected to the Whoopi situation, because, of course, as soon as all the Whoopi bullshit starts happening, Gina Carano steps out, and I'm actually kind of glad she did. So, Gina Carano calls for conversation over cancellation after Whoopi Goldberg was suspended from The View. So, Terror on the Prairie actress Gina Carano responded to the recent suspension of Whoopi Goldberg following her comments about the Holocaust in The View, calling for conversation over cancellation. Goldberg was suspended for 2 weeks by ABC President Kim Godwin, who stated, we've already read this part, so there you go. So the suspension came after a discussion about the removal of graphic novel Mouse from a Tennessee school district's curriculum. So we have all of this that you guys can have access to, but I'm going to just cut right to Carano's statement on it, or maybe we actually did hit it. Let's see. Here we go. So Carano responded to Goldberg's suspension on Twitter, writing, "I want to send blessings and love out to the Jewish community. When I was being smeared, canceled, and misunderstood, it was a Jewish man named Ben Shapiro who reached out and asked if I'd like to talk about it. Maybe Whoopi Goldberg could talk to Ben." Oh, that would be a wonderful conversation, would it not? To have Gina Carano talking to Ben Shapiro, of all people. Or, I'm sorry, Whoopi Goldberg talking to Ben Shapiro, of all people. Shapiro, for his part, described Goldberg's comments as insidious. He wrote on Twitter, and here is the Twitter post, "Whoopi Goldberg explaining that the Holocaust wasn't about race because these were two groups of white people isn't just insipid, it's insidious. It's downplaying the minority status of Jews in order to uphold bullshit intersectional arguments that justify anti-Semitism today." And he's not wrong. And that's what it was used for in this concept, and he's not wrong about the minority status, because that's what happened. Blames the Jews. Is they became a minority status within the German society, and everybody wanted to get rid of them because they were the problem, right? They were the only problem that existed. Nothing else happened. Ben would even... so Ben will eat her alive. Whoopi? How many bypasses would he need after that? Asking for a friend. He elaborated in his short thread stating, "The intersectional argument is that Jews are white people, and that Jews are disproportionately successful thanks to white supremacy, because racism is animal plus power, and Jews are powerful because they are white. Anti-Semitism from non-white supremacists isn't bigotry. This logic is why the left will condemn anti-Semitic attacks like the one at the Tree of Life, but quickly memory hole anti-Semitic attacks by black Hebrew Israelites in New Jersey or radical Muslims in Texas." Well, yes, her arguments, but now you've got that going on in my head, RBX, so now I actually have to see it in my head. How many bypasses would that need? Poor Ben. He'd had gas for decades. Too much butter to do that, literally. Well, yes, he'd need a bucket of... No. He would need, like, a backyard swimming pool's amount of butter to be able to do that. So, yeah. He concluded the attempt to abstract the causes of the Holocaust from Jew hatred to man's inhumanity to man is actually a way of obscuring and covering for anti-Semitism. He's not wrong. He's not wrong. In another tweet, Shapiro wrote, "If Whoopi Goldberg had ever expressed sympathy with a conservative cause in her entire life, she'd be out of the job today, but leftism confers immunity from anti-Semitism concerns, as we already know from Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib." Spouting logic. Somehow the left gets a pass, but if Whoopi Goldberg was Republican, like if she was the only Republican on The View, she wouldn't be suspended. She'd be fired. There's no ifs, ands, or buts, and she'd lose everything else because of it. Basically, what I want for her to happen to her, that would happen. And great. That should happen, because maybe then she'll learn a thing or two. He would also describe her comments as anti-Semitic in response to National Review editor Rich Lowry, writing, Whoopi Goldberg says something actually anti-Semitic. No problem. Ilya Shapiro says, racism is bad. Problem. Is Ilya his wife? I can't remember. And he's not wrong. So, for those who don't know why Carano kind of stepped in, I believe it was last year that she got canceled for basically pointing out the argument that the Nazis did make. They tried to get neighbor to hate neighbor. And in turn, showing that in the country today, that is happening. Whether you like it or not, it is. Tribalism is infectious that way. And so for that, she not only lost her role in The Mandalorian, she lost a potential role for the Rangers of the New Republic, and was pretty much wiped out of any Hollywood platform. I think even her agent fired her, and it was 2 to 3 days of utter madness for her. And ultimately, the fans stepped up in support of Gina Carano, and she was able to then work out a deal with Ben Shapiro to be able to work on a project. I think she's also been able to get a couple of other projects since then, and the projects that were about to cancel on her didn't, because I think one of them was Discovery, and she was able to do that gig. So that happened. And I actually think Gina Carano makes a legit point here. Instead of just sitting here going cancel, let's have that discussion. Because this is getting ridiculous, and frankly, I'm tired of all of it. That's why I'm of the opinion that Whoopi Goldberg should just get canceled straight up. Like, if that's the only way that people are going to learn from this crap, then that's how it's got to happen. Straight up, cancel her, fire her from everything. Because now it's time for some freaking tough love. Can we please start giving some fucking tough love? That would be great right now. But that's all right, because Whoopi wasn't the only one that decided to make a jackass of themselves this week. Because we're also going to go ahead and get into Adam Sessler again. Oh, Sessler. Oh, you're such a wonderful guy. So Adam Sessler goes off on Twitter user who told him to live in a cardboard box. Ouch. I don't think he would fit in a cardboard box. Smaller. So, G4 TV host Adam Sessler went off on a Twitter user who told him to live in a cardboard box. Twitter user FedGoat tweeted to Sessler writing, "Liberals and Democrats are the disease. Look at the country now. Biden is destroying America, and your hate speech means I will never watch G4. Go live in a cardboard box." So, ultimately, let's play a little game. Let me dig out my Mr. Rogers. Let's play a game, boys and girls. If you're an actor or a TV host, how do you respond to comments like that? How do you respond to it? Because here's the thing. As a TV host, with money on the line, you would in turn probably brush it off and say, well, not really anything we can do about this. Let them have their opinion and continue to advertise the way that you can. Sessler did not do this. So, Sally has feelings. Like strong snowflake feelings. Like Tucker Carlson put his hands up my ass and moves my mouth feelings. Woo. Ooh, that's some spicy shit. Fuck your feelings, you fucking Republican pussy. From my cardboard box. Well, he's just upset because she found out about the cardboard box. Guys, if you want to get into the acting profession, don't do what Adam Sessler just did. Okay? Don't do it. Because you will pretty much guarantee yourself that you will not be able to sell anything. You will not be able to put butts in seats. And that will hurt you. And it will come into the casting process whether you like it or not. Sessler, for some reason, continues to get work, but I have a feeling that even that is going to come to an end very soon, as we're finding out Comcast ain't too happy about G4. Ain't too happy at all. So much so that they had Frost delete 45,000 tweets. 45,000! That's pissed right there. Yet, Comcast, you missed a spot. Because, as we're going to point out in this article, just so I can get it out of my system once for a day, Republicans are stupid, racist, and drink piss. Hey, Comcast, how many people would you say that use your service are Republican? I'd say that's a fairly big number. And he just insulted all of them. Are you okay with that? Now, your actions tell me you're not, but he's still allowed to tweet right now. So maybe you're okay with this. I don't know. Maybe somebody should reach out to you about it and see whether or not you're okay with it. Sessler needs to stop doing cocaine. Well, that ain't gonna happen. Screw canceling sentence her to a gym. So this is with can Gina Carano be her gym coach? Oh, that'd be great, wouldn't it? Oh, she'd be so tough on her. I'd pay to see that. Yeah, so going up here, Sessler is no stranger to going after Republicans and cursing people out on Twitter. Back in January, he tweeted this. And then he also has tweeted this. I'm past the point that things like this will affect Republican voters because I'm past the point that they have comprehension skills more developed than black man bad. Okay. Well, we ain't getting anywhere on that guy. This is the epitome of dude on Twitter that everybody ignores. Because there's no getting through to that. There's no reason to argue with it. It's a brick wall. So in December, he insinuated Republicans are racist, tweeting, let's see. And the one I want to bring up, I don't know if it's actually in here or not, but about his family. He would have no problem watching his Republican family members die while drinking something bubbly. He wants his family members to die, Comcast. I think you ought to step in on him, too. Republicans have a small parabola. They only swing between white nationalism and Nazism. Hey, Adam. You're white. So everything about white supremacy and all that should fall on you. So everything that you are claiming that white people should do in service to black people, you first. Sessler has some heavy daddy issues. Trust me, he does. Because I have no problem saying I got blocked just because I made some wise-ass comment about his dad wanting him to get up early for church the next day. So I can tell you he has a very thin skin. In May of 2021, Sessler tweeted, I want to laugh at how Republican Party now is a feckless cult, supplicating to an unelected bloated pustule of nominal intellect in a crappy hotel, but I can't because that's a factual statement. He just described the Democrat Party. I find that funny. He just described feckless cult supplicating to an unelected bloated pustule of nominal intellect. Well, at that point, I would say subpar intellect in a crappy hotel. Okay. You just made... All you have to do is swap out Democrat Party and he would be getting roasted on Twitter right now. But he just described the cult that is the leftists. I can't even say it's the Democrat Party anymore because Democrats are actually waking up to the bullshit and walking away. So at this point, yeah, because he's projecting harder than a drive-in movie theater. Ooh, yeah, no kidding. Sessler even described Republicans as a terrorist organization. Yes, he's done that. Guys, why do we like him? Like, I'm being honest in the concept. I wasn't the biggest fan of G4. I liked the fact that it existed, but I didn't like the fact that its focus wasn't necessarily on gaming news. It was more the sex sells portion of it. Because every time I would tune into G4, it would be Attack of the Show doing something with Olivia Munn, something happening to Morgan Webb, and that's how it went. So, and all of those, by the way, Adam Sessler was in charge. So he had no problem with that. So he was the target of Frost's sexism and gaming rant. And yet he was clapping right along. He should have been in chains. He should have been in chains talking about it. He really should have been. So, there you go. Does he have it? No. Oh, no, he does. Here it is. Not for me. As I said yesterday, all the Republicans in my family can eat shit and die while I sip something bubbly. I'll say a lot of things about Democrats. I'll say a lot of things about leftists. You want to know what I won't say? That I want them to die. Because I do actually hold all life sacred. X-Play was more about Morgan with Adam Sessler. Yes. And what's really funny about that, because she's still fairly knowledgeable, and I would actually dare say probably more knowledgeable than Sessler. So, there's that. And she's hot, to boot. They have super low standard and want to fuck Frosk. Well, does anybody really want to fuck Frosk? I mean, I saw the picture of her butt, and, well, it was kind of gross. So, I have no problem saying it. It was gross. Absolutely. And this is why I won't even attend the funerals of my Republican relatives in the Midwest. I'll just enjoy an Aperol Spritz upon hearing the news of their passing. Oh, no. Nice guy. Nice guy. I feel really bad for his family. In fact, I want to talk to his family now. I want to hear how much of a little shithead he was in his life. Like, I just want to have that story. All this election talks of dumps makes me want to take a shit on the nearest Republican. Wow, nice guy. Nice guy. Those guys that know they are not going to get anything better. Yeah. So Sessler's response to this Twitter user comes as Social Blade reports that G4 TV lost over 6,000 subscribers from their 50,000 in January. Or, sorry, 500,000. The channel had a peak of 498,000 and is currently sitting at 492,000. Let's actually check that, boys and girls. Is that lower? Is that lower now than it was? I think it's just socialblade.com. Yes. So, G4 TV. So, G4 TV, you are sitting at 491K subscribers. So, they've been busy, haven't they? So 1K gone as of the 3rd. And I think the 3rd was when... was that the day that Frosk basically turned down the interview with the quartering? I think that was it. I think that was the day that her agent turned down the interview with the quartering. And for the dumbest reason, because, oh no, she's getting death threats! Yes, how funny when you actually go off and say a lot of inflammatory things that as soon as you just basically play victim the whole time. I'm sick and tired of this bullshit. So, that being said, let's go ahead and finish this one up. Not only are they losing subscribers, but their daily video views also appear to be dropping. January 12th saw a high of 85,000 views. January 26th saw daily view count drop to 32,000. And as I want to point this out, as Ryan Kinnell of RK Outpost and Friday Night Tights pointed out, it actually looks like they're also buying views as well as maybe even subs. So there's that. That practice that no creator online is allowed to use. They're doing it. So what are you going to do about that, internet? I'm just going to go ahead and say this. Just stop watching G4. Like, here's the biggest thing that you should take away from G4, guys, honestly. Because I remember having tons and tons of arguments with people this week over Frosk alone. But then they all completely forgot about this aspect. They openly admit that the people who are reading the reviews aren't necessarily playing the games to review them. Last I checked, if you want to read a game review, you want to have the person actually have played the game, right? And I'm sure there will be people going, well, they said that they were just reading from somebody else. No, they're making other people do the work for them. They are little parasites working off of others. They're going to go off and do their Twitter stuff while everybody else goes off and plays the games, and they take the credit. I can already tell you here and now, if I found out that that was the system, I'd walk out then and there. because I know exactly what it's going to be. No one's going to get credit for any of those reviews other than the hosts that are reading them. That's it. Now, maybe that saves you, because if they say a bunch of negative shit, then you can at least say, well, it wasn't me. But, hell no. Guys, I like G4 better when it was Tech TV. It was all just a giant thing of meh overall. This is why streamers are kicking their ass all over the place. YouTubers are kicking their ass all over the place. I would actually dare say that the current game reviewers online are kicking their ass. Although I did also find it funny that Gerard Khalil was amongst the hosts that also agreed to this. And don't you complete games within a week and review them? Shouldn't you have a problem with that, Gerard? Because you worked your ass off to get those reviews done. Shouldn't you be fighting for the people in the back to get the credit that they deserve? Instead of Philip Musining this and just taking the other people's work and claiming it as your own? That's the thing that people should take away from G4, and why G4 should not be watched, is you're not going to be able to get valuable gaming information from them whatsoever. They've openly admitted they will take, they will basically tote whatever gaming company's line is, as well as review however they want, including the fact that they're going to be taking the work of others. I'd much rather have those people get another job, because at least at that point they would be able to put their name on the article, right? I mean, the perfect example here, guys, is who wrote this article? I'm just curious. So I am reading John F. Trent from Bounding into Comics. A good job on the article, by the way. That would be the same as me not saying that John F. Trent wrote this article, but that I did, and that I am the only one that matters because I'm the one who's giving you the information. Is that fair to John? No, he worked his butt off on this. So, at that point, I'm basically being a parasite and having him be the little geek who does my homework for me. Wow, it's such a jock mentality that's over at G4, isn't it? Gerard is doing the smart thing and keeping his mouth shut so his YouTube channel doesn't get fucked over. It should get fucked over, though. It should get fucked over. He has 1.5 million gamers. His demographic is gamers. And they made fun of, they literally talked down to them and called them shit for hours. Well, not hours, but you get my point. They were talking down to his audience. Guess what, motherfuckers? His audience might actually be Republican. Well, you can't be that because they don't want that audience. Hey, Comcast, do you want to have them dictate what audience can watch and what audience can't? Do you want to have that? I'm pretty sure you don't. I'm pretty sure you just would like the money, please. So at that point, are you going to pay for these guys again? I hope not, because they don't deserve your money. I would much rather put my money somewhere else, because they are going down in their blaze of glory. Hope it was fun for you, because I can guarantee you that Comcast is pissed. I already know they've gone after Frost, but I'd actually hammer them on Sessler too. Have them, like, they probably have the same amount of control over his. Start hammering his ass on Twitter. Get him talking, like, she's now just talking about games. She's not even doing the whole drama farming and everything like that. And I'm pretty sure it's because Comcast said, shut the fuck up about that. Do that with Sessler. What the hell's stopping you? So, that being said, I think we've pretty much hit the points on this one. And now we get to talk about something fun. So this is the other thing that's been going on the rest of this, or the majority of this week. So I have, let's bring this back up here. Again, let me know if you guys like this new format for the podcast. I'd be very interested in your feedback. He should, but he is a pussy. Yes, well, Greg Wilmot already taught us that. Phone died after seeing Whoopi dressed like the... Well, I mean, I can't say I feel bad for you, J-Rock, but, well, she is the Michelin Man. I'm not even going to say the Stay Puft one because that's the insult. That's an insult to Stay Puft Marshmallows. Because not only is she fat, she's unattractive at that point too. I can actually say at one point, Whoopi Goldberg was attractive. To some extent, she was attractive. She ain't that anymore. I'm sure those G4 checks are very nice. I'm sure they are. I'm sure they are. Until Comcast stops paying. And then they won't be. So let's go ahead and get into the next story here. We have Peter Dinklage's Snow White complaint blasted by dwarf performers. He's trying to take roles away. How many people have been following this story and just laughing at the irony of it? Despite Peter Dinklage's recent attempt to position himself as a progressive champion by railing against the continued depiction of Snow White's 7 dwarf companions as dwarves, a number of other dwarf performers, including WWE star Dylan Hornswoggle Postal, Hornswoggle, is actually calling him out. Believe the Hollywood actor's commitment to being woke could threaten their livelihoods and ruin opportunities for others like them. I can't remember which network it was. It was probably either CNN or Fox News, one of the two. They actually had Hornswoggle on. They had the illegitimate son of Vince McMahon on there. And I get it, dwarf performer, but it was the greatest thing, in my opinion, to have Hornswoggle be the guy who's arguing against Peter Dinklage. Oh, that's wonderful. I'm so happy that happened. British actor Chun Tan, who had starred as a number of Snow White's companions in various productions across England, told the Daily Mail that he felt Dinklage's comments were hypocritical, as a lot of my colleagues... And here's the thing, too. He's not even technically... How do I put this? Because he's slightly taller than some dwarves, so in essence, there's like this whole depiction of them almost being like regular people. So it's like he's not even talking for all dwarves. He's actually got it pretty good compared to a lot of them. So yeah, let's see. As a lot of my colleagues and myself rely on that work to get by. And it's just embracing your uniqueness, because when I play the part, they utilize my bodybuilding and other people's skills, which is exactly right. And when I'm playing the part, it makes me feel quite impressive, because I feel like the spotlight is on us, and it's quite a magical experience. And just to be on stage, it really helps my confidence. I think everyone who does it, they do it because they enjoy it. They wouldn't do it otherwise. I'd encourage Disney to stick to the original. So this is Chun Tan. So this is the guy, but he's not wrong in those cases. Like, how many little people actors have we been able to support over the last few years? Like Lord of the Rings alone did huge dedications to the Hobbit stand-ins, to the Gimli stand-in. I remember, like, I think he actually got to be able to go to some conventions after the extended editions came out, and they showcased him because they wanted to be able to see him do like the fight scenes and all that. So at that point, like, this is good for them, and he basically came in and wrecked it only to make himself relevant again. Ouch. Peter, that was the dumbest shit to do. So Tan further noted his fear that if Disney were to ultimately abide by Dinklage's request, the dwarf-specific roles would be eliminated from widespread productions altogether, as he believes it will have a knock-on effect because other people might think it might be derogatory to have a dwarf in a certain role. Which is funny, because he himself, Dinklage, got a role not because he was a dwarf, but because of his charisma. If for anybody who saw it was short-lived, the series Threshold on, I think it was CBS, Dinklage played a renowned, I think it was mathematician in that series, and they made him like a playboy and everything like that. This is not a typical dwarf role that would be given to somebody, and they gave it to Dinklage. Like, he has been able to benefit from, because he's taken on those dwarf roles. I'm sure Dinklage has. He's probably even done it on stage. But he was able to benefit from that. He got a legit role out of it. The fucking hypocrisy. Yeah, that's the way it goes. I've had people that have hired me for entertainment and stuff, and they have they have that concern as well, where they're like, oh, we weren't sure if we were going to book you, he recalled, but don't feel bad about it because I don't feel bad as long as you're being respectful. I'm here, I'm getting paid, and this is supporting me in my life. What he's basically saying, guys, is Dinklage doesn't want any other dwarf actor to get paid except for him. Because he's progressive. He's the one that pointed out this hypocrisy. He's the one that made it better. So he's the one that deserves the roles, right? Dude, and somebody just barely reminded me, he got Trask. Days of Future Past. He got Trask, the developer of the Sentinels. Every other depiction, I believe, of Trask is just a regular white dude. And Dinklage got that role. And everybody applauded it. Everybody thought he was great in that role. He figured it out very, very well. And there you go. He's been able to gain from his success, and so if anybody else gains that, fuck them. Fellow dwarf actor Zeta Ferry echoed Tan's sentiments, explaining to the outlet, I honestly feel that the shows are good for little people such as myself. If Disney didn't use dwarf actors, I do feel it takes that away from us. The entertainment industry is the biggest positive we have in our position, she noted before likewise accusing Dinklage of hypocrisy. Peter Dinklage made a vast amount of money in Game of Thrones, a series that saw him referred to as countless derogatory terms. Imp. I think he's referred to as Goblin in it. He is actually referred to as a dwarf. Most of the time it's Imp. Like, he gets called the Imp. And yeah, he gets called countless derogatory terms, and he was still a beloved character for a lot of people, myself included. I've never read A Song of Ice and Fire, and I actually enjoyed Dinklage's performance more than most in that series. Especially with what he was given. So if he was so against the use of the term dwarf or similar, or even dwarf actors, would he have been in the series at all? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I mean, I believe Tyrion is described as a dwarf, so they would have hired somebody, but he's actually one of the better choices. Oh my gosh, and now we're referencing Hornswoggle. Adding his voice to the growing chorus of Dinklage's critics in a separate interview given to TMZ, Postel, or Hornswoggle, turned a more critical tone towards the actor's complaint, asserting, here's my issue. My issue with everything Peter Dinklage has said with this whole situation with the Snow White and the Seven Dwarves and the remake coming. It's Snow White and the Seven Dwarves. It's not Snow White and the Seven normal-sized humans like every other movie. Yeah! He elaborated, this is a fairy tale, a remake of a fairy tale, and this is also giving seven dwarves, people, real-life people, actors, a chance to star in a movie in a role that's fit for them. Literally fit for them. It's official. Peter Dinklage doesn't want dwarves to work. That's what he's basically saying. When The Greatest Showman came out, I couldn't be the main lead. I couldn't be P.T. Barnum, he said. I could have been one of the side acts because that role was made for me. And the issue at hand is, by saying this, he's doing something worse for the dwarf and the little people community. He's trying to take roles away. This is no different than having Al Sharpton come out of nowhere, have problems with how a president of a basketball organization runs things, and he boycotts the LA Dome. I don't know what it's called. But he boycotts that, and here's why it's not different. Because, yeah, he's affecting the guy who's paying all the bills, but you want to know who you're also affecting? If you can't open, then the nacho guy can't work. Then the janitors can't work. Then the ticket guys can't work. What Dinklage is basically saying is, okay, let's protest this. Nobody works. Because food magically appears on your table, right, Peter? Magically appears on the table. Like, you never have to worry about it ever again. We all live in a Star Trek utopia. That's the world that you think we live in. Absolute horse shit. Postel then opined? What the hell are you saying? It really blows my mind, the whole woke thing. You're going too far, in my opinion. It's too far. It's too much. You're trying to change something that doesn't need to be changed. Oh, shit. Did they really do that? Oh. Sorry, I need a moment. Hornswoggle came out as AJ Styles. That's great. Good job for you, man. There was nothing wrong with how these dwarves were portrayed. He wants to say these cave dwellers, that's wrong, first off. They lived in a cottage. They worked, and they had a whole lot of gems, so in reality, they were rich, yes. Let's be honest here, in a fairy tale world, these guys were rich, and they had all had separate characteristics that made themselves different from each other. They weren't just being dwarves. Like both Tan and Fairy, Postel also claimed that Dinklage's criticism was drenched in hypocrisy, noting that the actor also had no issue being cast as a dwarf in Elf. Was he an elf? Yeah, I think he was, actually. When he was representing that whole situation, that paycheck cleared just fine. When he was in Game of Thrones, he had no issue when that role was cast for a dwarf. That paycheck cleared just fine. And that's exactly right. Oh, yes, he was. He was an elf. It should be noted, however, that the punchline of Dinklage's appearance in Elf was not his dwarfism per se, but rather Buddy the Elf's obvious and offensive ignorance towards the fact that he is not an actual elf. Let's see. Now, this all of a sudden is crazy. This needs to be changed for current culture? Come on now. Ultimately, Disney, reach out to me. I will take every dwarf role you want. It could be Snow White and the 25 dwarfs. I have 24 friends in the dwarf community that would do these roles. That's the issue here. Fucking awesome, Hornswoggle. All right? Now I don't feel dirty about liking the fact that you were the anonymous anonymous Raw general manager. Okay? That wonderful. I love you. Dinklage's grievances against Disney's upcoming live-action production were initially aired during a recent appearance on Marc Maron's aptly named podcast, WTF with Marc Maron, telling the comedian, well, it's really progressive to cast out, literally no offense to anyone, but I was a little taken aback by, they're very proud to cast a Latina actress as Snow White, but you're still telling the story of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, so, I mean, I had a problem with that too, but it's Disney, so there's no way you're going to tell them otherwise. Oh, and here we go. Here's another Dinklage one. Oh yeah, he was in Cyrano. Take a step back and look what you're doing here. It makes no sense to me because you're progressive in one way, but you're still making that backward story of seven dwarves living in a cave. What the are you doing, man? Okay, so ultimately, Dinklage has just been roasted this entire time, and duly so. Because ultimately, I don't even know if he realized that he was doing this. He was advocating that dwarves should never get hired again. Was that his intention? I don't know. I don't think it was. But ultimately, that's what came out of it and why people were upset with him, because he did that. And so everybody lashed out at Tyrion. Why? Because he showed himself for the little imp that he is. So with that being said, my opinion on that is, Dinklage, you didn't think this through. You actually have gained a lot more opportunities than most dwarf actors have ever been able to get. How many dwarf actors can say they did work for the MCU? Like, literally, how many dwarf actors can say they did work for the MCU? How many can say that they did work for Game of Thrones? How many people can say that they've done work that doesn't utilize them as a dwarf? Pot, meat, kettle. Holy shit. You are the literal example of somebody who has been able to rise up despite it. You are the dwarf success story. And you're saying, fuck those guys. Don't hire them. They're not progressive enough. Hire me. Bullshit. I'll go hire Hornswoggle. I'm actually surprised at the guy, so I'm happy about what he did there, and I hope that I hope that this just blows up in Peter Dinklage's face. I have no problem saying that whatsoever. 'Cause I love Peter Dinklage, but he has basically shown himself to be like every other Hollywood actor. You don't know shit. Maybe you ought to just, step out of that and do what you're good at doing. Okay? And I can already tell you right here and now, if there's any dwarfs out there that are not getting any of these roles or anything like that, they're trying to live normal lives, they ain't seeing any of your movies anymore. Congratulations, Peter. You done up. All right. Next story that we have tonight is people wanted me to talk about this, and I'm guessing only because of Microsoft buying Activision Blizzard and my opinions on it. So Sony buys Bungie for $3.6 billion. So Sony Interactive Entertainment has announced it will acquire Destiny developer Bungie for $3.6 billion. Let's see, GameIndustry.biz reports that following the deal, Bungie will be run as an independent subsidiary of SIE and will remain a multi-platform studio with the option to self-publish and reach players where they choose to play, which works out ultimately for Bungie because of Destiny 2. Bungie is best known as the creators of Halo. At least, what is it, the first 3 games? Help me out here, chat, because you guys would know better than me. I've not played the Halo games all the way through. So I think Bungie did the first 3, and then 343 Studios came in and did 4 on. I might be wrong about that, but yeah. So Halo, but since becoming an independent studio, have focused their efforts on Destiny, a live service FPS RPG where players can explore the galaxy as Guardians of Light. The company is also working on a new IP. I did not know that. So I'm interested in that. We've had a strong partnership with Bungie since the inception of the Destiny franchise, and I couldn't be more thrilled to officially welcome the studio to the PlayStation family, says Jim Ryan. In the official PlayStation blog post, Ryan begins by confirming Bungie's independence. I want to be very clear to the community that Bungie will remain as an independent and multi-platform studio and publisher, which is good for them because ultimately one of the big complaints that they had in regards to Destiny is, I can't remember who it was that was messing around with them. It was their previous owners. They were messing around with Destiny quite a bit. And so I know that now in Destiny 2, they've been fixing a lot of that shit that was forced on them by their previous owner. Oh, who was it? I cannot remember. Who owned Bungie before Sony? Yeah, here we go. Let's actually answer this really quick because it'll be helpful. Yeah, so Microsoft acquired them, but it wasn't them that they were dealing with during Destiny. So who was it? Crap. I might actually have to look at this. Who's Halo owned by? Let's. Okay, unfortunately, I don't have it right off the bat, but it wasn't Microsoft that did all the bullshit. I know that much because they parted on fairly good terms. Was it Activision that owned them? It might have been Activision or EA that ultimately owned them, and then they parted ways after that. So Ryan also says that Bungie will sit alongside the PlayStation Studios organization, where the two groups will collaborate. PlayStation Studios will also gain access to Bungie's proprietary tools, which can be used for PlayStation Studios teams, according to the blog. In a separate post, Bungie detailed what the acquisition means for the company, calling SIE a partner who unconditionally supports us in all that we are and who wants to accelerate our vision to create generation-spanning entertainment, all while preserving the creative independent that beats in Bungie's hearts. Bungie reaffirms that it retains its ability to independently publish and develop games, which is going to be good for them because if they want to do multi-platform, they're allowed to. I'm guaranteeing you that Bethesda, we already know Bethesda doesn't entirely have that deal. And I'm not sure if Activision Blizzard are going to have any kind of multi-platform completely able to do multi-platform. They probably will have exclusive franchises. So that's at least good on Sony's part. They're allowing them to continue to do that. This is Sony's 6th acquisition since 2021. Though most of its studio acquisitions have been studios with long histories with PlayStation, like Bluepoint and Housemarque, or support teams and specialized studios like Nix's and Valkyrie Entertainment. While Destiny 2 has been heavily promoted alongside PlayStation with exclusive bonuses for players on the system, Bungie's history is intertwined across PlayStation, Xbox, and PC, and the company hopes to remain multi-platform after the deal. I think, in all honesty, they will. At least as long as they continue to remain successful, then Sony doesn't have any reason to renege on that deal. But if they continue to put out crap, then that would be the case. This deal will also be scrutinized with Xbox, which has recently been making major acquisitions across the industry. While building up Xbox game studios, they required ZeniMax Media, Activision Blizzard. With Sony acquiring Bungie, this new age of studio acquisitions only appears to be heating up as studios look to expand their portfolio of teams and franchises. There's also the matter of Bungie's internal culture, which IGN which they reported on. Whether this acquisition will help guide the changes currently ongoing at the studio remains to be seen. So a lot of people had reached out to me on whether or not we were overblowing the Activision, because last week, if people don't remember, I was making fun of the fact that everybody was going, Microsoft is going to be the next superpower. And ultimately, we don't even know if they are or not, because again, you have to realize which Bethesda that they're getting and which Activision Blizzard they're getting, which at this point, those companies are not in their heyday right now. They are actually quite a step below that, and they're going to have to build themselves back up again. I would actually argue that this is a better purchase for Sony in the fact that Bungie already had that dip and are already trying to rebuild their rapport with their fans. I know that a lot of people that I know personally that play Destiny 2, that's not a lot of people ultimately, but they've been happy that Destiny 2 has gotten a little better over time, and have credited Bungie with actually talking to the fan base. And that's ultimately what you should be doing. You shouldn't be doing anything otherwise than that. So I'm happy that they're doing it, because ultimately under their previous owner, they couldn't do that. Instead, they had to do everything that the previous owner wanted with Destiny, and they weren't allowed to put in their own creativity with it. Even I know that Xbox didn't technically do that with them with Halo. I know that they were able, that they had some things that they wanted to say about it, but I think they basically sat back and let Bungie do their job, which in turn is what created the hype around Halo 1, Halo 2, and Halo 3. So as long as Sony continues to do that, there won't be any issues. I mean, currently they kind of are doing that with Blue Point. We don't know what the next big Blue Point production is. A lot of people are speculating it's a PS5 version of Bloodborne. I mean, it might be, but Blue Point has had such success with what they've been doing for PlayStation. Sony has had no reason to intervene with them. I mean, ultimately they purchased them, and that was a good idea on their part. You know, it's basically, the best way to look at it is, back in the NES days, Nintendo invested in a little company called Rare. Why? Because Rare was putting out good games for them, fairly successful games. I played a lot of those, and in turn saw a lot of potential in the company. And I think it was the Super Nintendo era that they actually did bring them on as an official second-party developer. And when they did that, it only got better, because they got Donkey Kong Country out of it, which ultimately led to things like Banjo-Kazooie, Killer Instinct. So this is ultimately something that could potentially happen for Sony as well. If they stay out of their way and they let them continue, let's just say for the sake of argument with this new IP, I don't know what it is. They're continuing to work, their Destiny team is continuing to work with the audience, and that's what they should be doing. But with this new IP, Sony's probably looking at that and going, okay, well, there's probably money there. So as long as we stay out of their way and we make money, we don't care. The only time that a company should care, like in the case of Microsoft, is when there's worry about failure, which is why I like the idea that they've been as hard as they have been with Bethesda in saying, no, you can't work on two, 3 games at once. Work on Starfield first, and by the way, Starfield will be exclusive, and then go work on Elder Scrolls. And I know that some people are going to point out, but that's not how Todd Howard does it. Well, it is now. He's not in charge. Phil Spencer is. Uncle Phil is. And he gets to dictate that. So be pissed at him all you want, but that's the way that he's decided that he wants to do it. So, that being said, there really isn't much to say on this. It kind of goes in with the exact same thing that Microsoft does. which is as long as Bethesda and Activision Blizzard continue to deliver, then all Microsoft has to do is just hold their hands back and go. That's all they have to do. And the same thing for Sony, which is in a lot of cases why I don't think that they've imposed too much on companies like Sucker Punch or Insomniac. They've allowed them to continue to do what they're doing because it makes them money, and they don't care as long as they make money. So at that point, let's go ahead and get into the next story that we have. So let me bring this back up here. So the next one that we've got is, I wanted to address this a little bit because I've been following the situation and it's getting effing ridiculous, but this isn't necessarily like top story material. So if you've been following the Joe Rogan situation, long story, let's just say you haven't been. Long story short, Joe Rogan has had he's had a lot of controversial guests on his podcast, and thankfully so, because in a lot of cases, that's how good conversations happen. I'm pretty sure the Democratic Party did not like the fact that he had people like Bernie Sanders and Andrew Yang on his podcast, as well as Tulsi Gabbard during the election cycle. So, or it was the 2016 election cycle. So, was it 2016? Yes, because Hillary was still involved there. And I think even Joe reached out to Hillary. Nah, he would have never done that. So at that point, Joe actually had two controversial guests on. I believe it's Peter McCullough, a controversial doctor because he doesn't necessarily buy into a lot of the COVID tagline that he's supposed to, that Papa Anthony told him to, as well as Dr. Robert Malone. I will personally admit, I haven't listened to the Pete McCullough podcast. I want to, but unfortunately on my Spotify, it's up, it's down, it's up, it's down. I've listened to the Dr. Robert Malone one, and that was a scary one. Basically, for those who don't know, Dr. Robert Malone is actually, he has the patent for a lot of the things that make an mRNA vaccine, aka what the Pfizer COVID vaccine utilized. And so he was able to give his insight on not only working on this stuff, but also the scientific community and how it approached the COVID vaccine. Very scary. But I do recommend that you go to Spotify and listen to it. But in backlash to these two controversial guests, first Neil Young basically said, okay, you can either have Joe Rogan or you can have my music. You can't have both. So at that point, Spotify said, okay, and took off Neil Young's music off of Spotify. Now, since then, Joe Rogan's podcast has had warnings put up on it and everything like that, which I think is totally within the purview of Spotify to do, because it means nothing. It really means nothing. Like, people are still going to watch, like, Christian Broadcasting Network. They don't care about the guideline. This doesn't follow the views of whatever channel. They don't care. They're watching it because they want to watch it. Same thing with the Joe Rogan podcast. People listen to it because they like it. They like the guests that he has on. So that happened to Neil Young, and now basically a bunch of other music celebrities have said, okay, well, it's us or them, roughly. And I don't think a lot of them have been handled yet. Joni Mitchell, I don't think has been handled. I'm not sure if this is a joke or not, but Barbara Streisand apparently was there. This is most recently, I like how they put woke actress because, well, most actresses in Hollywood are. Sharon Stone calls Joe Rogan an a-hole, accuses the podcaster of risking people's lives with his idiocy. This may be going a little bit too hard in the politics, but frankly, since Joe Rogan goes into the entertainment topic, I at least wanted to bring it up. And if you guys don't want any more of that, you are free to let me know in the comment section. In a recent interview with TMZ, woke actress Sharon Stone has slammed comedian and podcaster Joe Rogan, calling him an a-hole and accusing him of risking people's lives with his idiocy. And that's funny considering that you have a bunch of other actresses like Evangeline Lilly who are starting to say, like, these guidelines are ridiculous. And having their jobs threatened by it. Letitia Wright also had her job threatened with Black Panther 2. I think they've resolved it since then, but that happened as well. When asked about her opinion on Joe Rogan and the recent controversy with musician Neil Young's campaign to deplatform the podcaster from audio streaming platform Spotify, the activist actress prefaced stating that she has won several awards for her activism. I'm sorry, was that supposed to be my default reaction? Oh, no. The default reaction is believing whatever you say because you were on television and movies. Yeah, fuck that. You know, I'm an infectious disease worker who has won the Nobel Peace Prize, the Nobel Peace Summit Award for my work in infectious disease, Harvard Awards, Einstein Awards, Harvard Awards, Einstein Awards, you know, these kinds of things, said Sharon Stone. Do we know if they're legit or if they're honorary? I would really like to know. Adding that she has also worked with Dr. Fauci for decades. Well, that already takes you down so far in credibility as far as I'm concerned. She went on, I just want to say COVID is not an opinion-based situation, and Mr. Rogan thinking that his opinion or a disclaimer for the lives that he personally has affected and caused losses of, it's not an opinion. It's an opinion! He has an opinion. He has an opinion on the approach to the vaccine. He has an opinion on the approach towards COVID. They're all opinions. What the fuck are you talking about? Mr. Rogan is risking people's lives with his idiocy and his professing that his thoughts about COVID are opinions. They are yes, they are! Mother effer! Yes, they are! So further adding that COVID and infectious diseases are science, and they are fact-based. This is a fucking cult, guys. Follow the science. Ooh! That's how this is getting out of hand. Is that it's not even about science anymore. Science has, in some strange way, has become dogma. So the presence that these are opinions is dangerous, and Joe Rogan's behavior is dangerous. Also, so the pretense that these are opinions, that he should put a disclaimer that he's an a-hole. Well, there's not really a disclaimer for that. Otherwise, you'd have one. And that his behavior is dangerous and affecting lives and deaths has been demonstrated by so many of the people that have lost their lives by proclaiming the things he's saying. Do you have evidence of that? Prove your premise, woman. Prove your premise. Show them receipts. If Joe Rogan has killed so many of his audience, show how he's done that. I am so sick and tired of this bullshit. This is a bullshit argument, and you should feel like bullshit for making it. Just because somebody else has the same opinion as, say, a YouTuber, and they act upon it, does not necessarily mean that it's the YouTuber's fault. So if somebody decides to go in a similar direction, but Joe Rogan doesn't condone it, is Joe Rogan therefore responsible for that person's life being lost? No! It never has been, it never will be. Let's start acting with common effing sense. Self-proclaimed infectious disease worker Sharon Stone doesn't have any degrees in the medical field. Of course she doesn't! And the awards that she has been honored with in the past are in no way, shape, or form the credentials she thinks they are. So she's Bill Nye, the formerly known science guy. Yeah, side tangent. Anybody else find Bill Nye the Science Guy annoying? I mean, like, in his show. Honestly, do you find him annoying? I found him annoying. Every time my science class put him on, I was like, mother... I didn't even know he was an engineer at the time. He was just fucking annoying. But now, I relish the fact that he was just an engineer. He doesn't really speak. Alan Alda speaks more for the scientific community, and he has nothing to his name. So, as a matter of fact, the insufferably woke actress did win the Nobel Peace Summit Award in October of 2013 for her activism against AIDS and her charity work towards this particular cause, not for her medical expertise, which is non-existent. Huh. I wonder how Sharon Stone feels about her buddy Anthony Fauci when he was basically saying that people could actually get AIDS by cutting themselves on a cereal box. Yes, that happened. Uh-huh. The Tibet Post reported at the time that Sharon Stone was honored with the aforementioned award for her activities that brought solidarity and new hope to the millions of people who have fought and are fighting against the tragedy of HIV/AIDS. Somebody needs to ask her that question. How do you feel about how Fauci handled AIDS? The AIDS epidemic back in the day. I would love to hear her opinion on it. In fact, she even looks like she has crazy eyes. She looks like that Karen that's going to go call them, demand that you call the manager. According to the publication, other unbearably woke celebrities have won the Nobel Peace Summit Award in the past, including Bono, Sean Penn, and George Clooney. Usual suspects. In August of 2020, the woke actress also blamed individuals who didn't wear facial masks for her younger sister's COVID-19 diagnosis. My sister Kelly, who also already has lupus, now has COVID-19. Proof. This is her hospital room. One of you non-mask wearers did this. Proof. Lupus is hard to prove. I would just like to know for a fact that she had lupus. I'm just saying. As we learned on House MD, it's never lupus. The actress continued, she does not have an immune system. The only place she went was the pharmacy. There is no testing in her country unless you are symptomatic, and then it's 5-day wait for results. Can you face this room alone? Wear a mask for yourself and others. No. In fact, if I ever actually get to meet you on the street, Sharon Stone, I will go out of my way to take my mask off. And if you complain about it, I will then proceed to tell you to grow up. In case you are wondering, Sharon Stone's younger sister did not succumb to her COVID-19 diagnosis. Well, she had lupus, she probably would have. In August of 2020, she in fact standing right next to the activist actress in TMC's recent interview about Joe Rogan. Oh, that's so funny. Just days before his particular interview, wherein the actress called Joe Rogan an a-hole, Stone had tweeted her support for Neil Young's censorship campaign against the podcaster. I'm with Neil Young and cancel my Spotify account in the name of truth. Bye. Since Neil Young demanded Spotify to pull his music from the audio streaming platform, Joe Rogan has addressed the situation, stating, I think there's a lot of people that have a distorted perception of what I do. You think? Maybe based on sound bites or based on headlines of articles that are disparaging. He asserted the podcast has been accused of spreading dangerous misinformation, specifically about 2 episodes, a little bit about some other ones, but specifically about the ones that had Dr. Peter McCullough and Dr. Robert Malone. Rogan also argued that some of the information shared by his guests on the Joe Rogan Experience was deemed controversial in the past, but has since changed and is now being accepted as fact. And in fact, he did say that, and it is true. That's how this whole thing has gone. I remember when it was taboo to say that this thing might have been made in a lab. And now we accept that as fact. That's how ridiculous the situation has gotten. I'm guaranteeing you that we'll be learning even more as the months roll on. Like, for instance, 8 months ago, if you said if you get vaccinated, you could still catch COVID and you could still spread COVID, you'd be removed from social media. They would ban you from certain platforms. Now that's accepted as fact. He also stated that he is open to the idea of having Spotify put a disclaimer on the episodes because he would be. Like, it's not against his better interests to have that. People are still going to listen to the podcast. They don't give a crap about the guideline, just as much as nobody gives a crap about the fucking trigger warnings in Disney Plus. They're still going to watch the shit because they found it entertaining when they watched it originally. Rogan also pledged to do this, best to try to balance out these more controversial viewpoints with other people's perspectives so that we can maybe find a better point of view, as he did not want to just show the contrary opinion to what the narrative is. Which in some cases is why I respect Joe Rogan in what he's doing. He wants to have honest conversations, and that's the way to do it, is to basically have both sides of it. I'm pretty sure that if it was 2016 and it wasn't a Democrat running in place to take Barack Obama's place, he would have had the Republican nominees in there too. I don't think that they would take the invitation. But he had all of the ones except for like Hillary Clinton and Joe. Did Joe run? I can't remember if he ran in 2016, but I mean, he had Bernie Sanders on, he had Andrew Yang, he had Tulsi Gabbard. Did he have Pete Buttigieg? He probably did have Pete Buttigieg on. So at that point, yeah, that's the kind of guy he is. I like the fact that he tries to actually look for a solution, not necessarily just buy into the dogma that people are perpetuating that he has to do. That doesn't get anywhere. So at that point, I don't know about you guys. Like, my opinion ultimately on this is I am laughing my ass off at all the people who are basically saying, well, we're just going to walk off. We're going to walk off. Bye. Like, let's just say if Spotify removes Joe Rogan right here and now, he asks for his release from the contract and he continues to do what he's doing. And the people will follow him that way. But right now, it is in Spotify's best interest to continue to have him on their platform because he brings people in. He brings people in. And as far as the left is concerned, when it comes to Joe Rogan, he is basically the next Orange Man. All right? They can't say all the shit that they want to about Trump anymore, so they have to pick a target. And unfortunately, that's Joe Rogan. That's ultimately what's happening here, and it's a sad thing, but you know what? Joe Rogan can take it. And so at that point, I know that he's gonna deal as much as he takes. And that's going to be a fun thing to watch. The only thing that I'm irritated about with Joe Rogan is, for the love of God, sue CNN. Stop being the nice guy about it. I've seen a few clips where he's like, man, I probably should sue CNN. No, you should sue CNN. Look at all the other lawsuits that are lining up against CNN. Sue CNN. They put out a fucking hate campaign against you, man. Just sue them. They don't have your best interests at heart anymore. So, that being said, let's go ahead and do our wrap-up article for the night. I had a lot of WoW fans want me to talk about this and give my opinion. I don't really have one, but without further ado, let's just go ahead and do this. So, World of Warcraft announced this week that they will allow Horde and Alliance players to play together at last. So this is actually going to be an initiative in patch 9.2.5. I almost wanted to go into the WoW jargon there. But basically after their 9.2 update, Eternity's End, which is going to end the storyline of the Shadowlands expansion. Something tells me that some kind of peace accord will probably be enacted in terms of story, and that's what justifies it. After 18 years, World of Warcraft is finally relaxing its deep historical faction divide between Alliance and Horde players and letting them play together at last. As Blizzard announced today, or when they did, an update is currently in the works that will allow Alliance and Horde players to form parties together for dungeons, raids, and raided PvP. Though not available yet, the change is planned for release as part of an eventual 9.2.5 update after the upcoming major patch, Eternity's End. The shift is, by necessity, somewhat limited in scope. It has to be. World of Warcraft has followed its Warcraft heritage by dividing the Alliance and the Horde into warring factions. In fact, the majority of the game is built on and around that divide. In fact, expansions have been built upon that. The majority of the game, it has historically pursued storylines that set the two groups at odds, pit the two against one another in PvP, which it doesn't make sense to actually put them together in battlegrounds. That seems weird to me. And separated out of the groups completely for social structures like guilds, parties, and even communication out in the world. It's not that you can't talk to them, it's just that they speak another language, and therefore that's how they keep it that way. So one of its most recent expansions, Battle for Azeroth, explicitly centered around that faction conflict, though its resolution ended in a tenuous truce. Ultimately, that expansion ended with the Alliance versus Horde not being part of it. I actually have a video that's eventually I'm going to do on this, but ultimately, I do think that they were dishonest with Battle for Azeroth, and that they should have just openly admitted that it was going to be an Old God expansion, and you still could have kept that Alliance versus Horde vibe. It would have made sense, because the Old Gods just kind of pit you against each other. But they decided against it, because, I don't know what I'm talking about. So at the moment, Blizzard is keeping things simple. Well, relatively. Players will be able to directly invite members of the opposing faction to parties if they are already friends via Battle.net or Real ID, or if they are members of an existing cross-faction community. When making pre-made groups in the Group Finder tool, they can open applications up to members of both factions or just their own. They'll be able to communicate through party chat while in a party and trade items, fight together, and earn achievements while inside instances. Meanwhile, guilds and all random matchmaking activities will stay same faction. That makes sense because their systems are too integrated the way that they are. And players will still remain unfriendly or hostile out in the world, even if they are in party together. A handful of instances with explicit faction-divided components will also not work with cross-faction groups, at least at the outset, including the Battle of Dazara Lore, Trial of the Crusader, and Icecrown Citadel, though these may be reworked in the future. I kind of hope that they just leave them alone, honestly. Cross-faction play is something the World of Warcraft community has been asking about for years now, but when I asked game director Ian Hazzikostas why now, he quipped back with, why not? Before explaining that this shift was actually part of a larger re-examining of World of Warcraft's fundamentals, a process Blizzard began back in 9.1.5. What Ian Hazzikostas was also trying to say under the radar is, please come back to our game. Please come back to our game. We'll do better. We promise. Because he's completely ignoring the fact that when 9.1 happened, a massive exodus occurred from World of Warcraft to Final Fantasy XIV. So that being said, they're based... part of my opinion is they're grasping at straws here. They're trying to do everything in their power to be able to make it to probably at least the next expansion, and this is one of the ways they're doing it. Let's see. We'll worry about that because that'll come later. Part of the blog that we put out that laid the foundation for this was about looking at assumptions we've made about how character progression should work, about player versus account and all these other things, and really revisiting things we've said no to that people in the community have asked for. And one of them has been the desire for cross-faction play in some form. The answer had always been, well, it's Warcraft, it's orcs versus humans, it's Horde versus Alliance, and that it's what defines our whole IP. Except when we have an expansion where we're supposed to work together. Because we've had more of those than we've had Alliance versus Horde expansions. Hazzikostas begins to compare it to Star Wars, suggesting that in a Star Wars game, you wouldn't let Jedi and Sith cooperate, but then he corrects, saying that example is actually quite different. Yeah, Ian, that wasn't a good one. That wasn't a good one at all. Jedi and Sith in that universe are ideologies. They're choices. Someone chooses to walk the path of the light or go to the dark side. You're born Alliance. You're born Horde. That's not a choice you make. That's something that's assigned to you. That predestined fate isn't necessarily something that we want to necessarily stand by. Okay. The problem with that argument is, so you're born Alliance, you're born Horde. Yeah, in terms of character creation, but the lowly farmer out in Elwyn Forest probably isn't. They don't care as long as they can sell their wheat, kind of thing. So I'm sorry, but that, you're painting with a broad brush there, as far as I'm concerned. Let's see. By the idea that your lot in the world, because you were born an elf, you must hate trolls and nothing can change that. And because you were born a troll, you're their eternal enemy. That's not the world we want to build, but it's also not the world we really have building or the story we've been telling for the last 20 years and going back to Warcraft 3. At the end of the day, it was about the factions coming together to defeat Archimonde to stop the major threats to our world, which is the build-up to Warcraft 3, and then eventually you broke that up again and brought it together again in Burning Crusade, and then brought it together again in Wrath of the Lich King, and then brought it together again in Cataclysm. I'm just saying that this is all one ginormous on-again, off-again relationship. Just saying. Another big reason the change is happening now is because of how communication outside of World of Warcraft has changed over the years. 17 years ago, Hazzikostas said people met their online friends and communities through the game, and thus through their factions. But increasingly over the years, that's changed radically. And it has. Because we've had plenty of outside communities that have basically bridged that gap. It was just kind of one of those accepted rules back then. If you meet a friend and you discover that you play on different servers, oh well, you're never going to get to play with your friend. That's just how WoW is. Whereas those boundaries have increasingly been torn down, and tons of communities have formed, and there are Discords and WoW communities, and people who are friends on Twitter and other places. The downside of maintaining that hard line grows with each passing year. Yeah, I get it. We frankly probably reached the tipping point a little while ago, but in a game like this, we're stubborn and traditionalists, and it's scary to say, let's uproot this foundational pillar of what the game has been for over a decade, but it's time. Hazakostas wants to emphasize that, at least for now, Blizzard isn't ready to jump to extremes like eliminating factions entirely and letting a bunch of humans into Orgrimmar. That would undermine Azeroth's shared reality, but by keeping it focused on cooperative play, it allows players to define their own boundaries for faction identity, while also conveniently letting them play with friends who just happen to be with the opposing faction. So basically what he's saying is, in terms of story, we still have this tenuous piece, and that's why you're allowed to be able to do it, but at the same time, there is a divide because we have that divide in the code. That said, another reason they're keeping the change within the scope for now is because it's technically massive undertaking, touching on systems from how quest credits are shared to trading items to simple communication between players. That's why I'm saying it's deep in the code. On a fundamental level, the code was written to assume, well, a party has a faction, and that party's faction is Horde or Alliance. There's a bunch of things in the game that reference to that, and so it's been a large undertaking of collaboration between our gameplay engineers, our UI, and our content and system designers. And some of it also assumes assumptions made in different instances, and the group being one faction or the other. We're doing work to unwind and account for the vast majority of those. Some of them are beyond the scope of what we really can deliver in legacy content, like, for example, Battle of Dazara lore. So you can only do... And frankly, I still think that they ought to keep those, because, you know, the factions... I wouldn't want to have the faction story ruined in those. It's still kind of fun to listen to the voice work in those. Hazakosa says there probably won't be a story acknowledgement about the gameplay change, as the factions are currently already at an armistice, but he does think it'll unlikely they'll ever do an all-consuming faction conflict expansion again, like Battle for Azeroth. He thinks it's more likely they'll focus on a wider range of perspectives on the divide through characters and quests, such as the survivors of the burning of Teldrassil, Gen Greymane, members of the Forsaken, and all those in between, all while letting players decide for themselves whether they stand in relation to the opposing faction. Of course, none of this stops Blizzard from eventually taking things further, though Hazakosa suspects they won't have either technical or ideological reasons to implement the change in WoW Classic. There isn't a reason to change it. So at that point, I don't think that they will, in all honesty. Maybe they'll do something outside of it via Battle.net, but I don't think they'll do it. Let's see. So given that Hazakostas had described the faction war as a foundational pillar of World of Warcraft, I asked him what then World of Warcraft's foundational pillars are with this one uprooted. It's easy to assume as shorthand that the core idea is Horde versus Alliance. I think if you go back to Warcraft 1 or Warcraft 2, well then yes, that literally was the case, because it was just a two-faction RTS game. But really from Warcraft 3 onwards, I think the ideals of Warcraft have been adventure, exploration, but also the fact that we actually fundamentally have more in common than what separates us, which is ultimately what a lot of these expansions have done. So ultimately, my opinion on the announcement, again, I think it's grasping at straws. I think, in all honesty, they were hurt badly and don't want to admit it. They were hurt badly by the exodus to FF14, and so they're trying to make it out to be, yeah, we're totally fine. We're just doing this because we want to. I think they're doing it because they want to bring some of that audience back. It may have been in their plan all along. I doubt it. Considering where they're going with the expansion so far in Shadowlands. I don't even know what they're going to do with the next one, but in all honesty, I'm not all that anchored to it. I actually am taking a break from WoW right now because I just got so sick and tired of all the bull crap that was happening in the story. And what 9.2 is promising is odd, and I don't know if it's actually going to fix anything or make it worse. So at that point, I'm going to be honest here. I don't really have that many friends or family members that play cross-faction, so it doesn't really affect me. Would it be great? I'm sure that my guild community on WoW would expand it and would want to bring Horde in as well, and that's fine. Like, they're welcome to do that, and I get to meet new people. Wow, I'm okay with that. But ultimately, it's not necessary. I don't think it's necessarily because they want to do it. I think it's because they kind of have to at this point. Maybe their audience has gotten so dwindled that on certain servers, you just can't find people on a particular faction because so many people have left. So maybe that's one of the reasons that they're doing it, is so that they can maintain some form of stability with the WoW community that's left versus the people that have already gone. So ultimately, my opinion is that I guess good for them. I mean, if they wanted to do it story-wise, I'd be okay with it. I think you can justify it. But ultimately, it just sounds to me like this is grasping at straws. They're just doing everything they can to keep the WoW community going, and take away whatever things are hampering them from being able to interact with one another. So this is what they do. So ultimately, I'm sorry if that disappoints people, but it's my opinion. I don't think, and I ultimately don't think that this is going to fix it either. I don't think people are going to come back in droves to play with their Horde counterparts. I think they're playing with them playing with those Horde counterparts on Final Fantasy XIV. So it doesn't really matter that much. But there you go. So that's the podcast for tonight. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Thank you so much to the live chat that we had, and we continue to have. Actually, they're still going on about, but. If you guys want to if you like what you guys heard and you guys want to support the podcast, keep in mind that we do these solo podcasts during the month, and then at the end of the month, I bring a panel together and we discuss the stories of the month, maybe even some things that we didn't discuss here. And also, obviously, no politics. So if you didn't like the politics being brought in, as compared to tonight, they won't be brought in at the big one at the end of the month. So don't worry about that. If you guys want to be able to support the podcast, you can do so by linking up into our RSS feed and supporting it, which is geekynro.libsyn.com, or you can go to Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Player.fm, and Amazon Podcasts. I completely forgot about that one, aka Audible. You guys can check the podcasts out there, as well as some of the exclusive stuff that we do for that. Specifically, that we already have up the first episodes of Geek News Anime Night for Fruits Basket Season 3, as well as Geek News Marathon Night for Rising of the Shield Hero Episodes 1 through 3. You guys can join us for that. We also will be having some Geek News roundtables in the next little bit, and Geek News Movie Night will be returning very soon, I promise you that. You can also follow the podcast on Twitter at GeekyNRO. That is my account that I'm utilizing, but I will be putting up stuff for podcasts there as well, so you guys can support that also. I am also happy to announce that we are also on Spotify, not on Spotify, on Odyssey. So I just barely opened that up, and we do have last week's podcast available on Odyssey, so you guys can check that out. I will be just putting up podcast content there, so for those who like the live stream content that I do with my wife Andrea and things like that, that is not in the cards right now. So you guys can go to Odyssey.com and check out GNRO Podcast, and that is where it is, and I will be uploading a bunch of podcasts to that just to kind of bring it up to speed in the future. And who knows, maybe if I can actually make it work out, we'll start streaming on Odyssey. I'm not sure. But also, so those are the ways to be able to reach out. You can also reach out to me on Instagram at Drak2326, where I put up pictures of my kids, gaming memes that I tend to find, and more pictures of my kids because I'm a dad. That's what I like to do. And of course, if you guys want to submit stories or give us feedback on the podcast, you can do so at geekyweek@gmail.com. And that'll do it for this experimental podcast where it's just me going over some topics that maybe you guys want to talk about, but maybe the panel doesn't want to talk about. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Make sure to leave me some feedback in the comment section down below. If you liked it, you hated it, I would love to be able to hear all of your opinions on it. And in the meantime, for myself, I will see you guys next time for even more geek news, reviews, and opinions. And I guess I'm now in post-show territory. So at that point, thank you guys so much for joining me on this. If anybody has any opinions that they'd like to share right now, I'd be more than happy to have them. Maybe you didn't like the stories that we talked about or anything like that, but I think it overall went okay. Otherwise, people also might be tired because it is getting close to, it's probably like 1 a.m. Eastern, so people are also probably getting a little tired. I am also going to try and run this a little earlier, like around 8, to see if maybe I can put a post show in there, and we can play some games and talk about the stories that way. But ultimately, I think it worked out, and thank you guys so much for joining. Let's see, I'm just kind of wrapping things up. Now, I should also point out, tomorrow we will be streaming. Because we missed out on the opportunity, I have already remade it to Spider-Man. So we're going to do Spider-Man 2018 tomorrow and showcase that, because after that, we're done with the new game nights, at least the ones we were doing in December, and we'll get back to doing what we were working on initially. So that'll start happening, and hopefully we have all of the upload stuff figured out so that we can in turn stream, because all of that was my fault this week. And also, I apologize to those who were affected by the crap from YouTube. I don't know what the hell was going on, but I will definitely look into it. But yeah, it looks like people are winding down for the night, so maybe when I can actually do this a little bit earlier, we'll do a post show and have fun there. But in the meantime, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up. Thank you guys so much for joining, and I will see you guys tomorrow night for some Spider-Man 2018. Take care.